Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, along with my wonderful wife, Janet, and we are streaming live, as you can tell, from Team Needham abode right in our kitchen. You obviously have to love technology issues, but we just work through them. So glad we have other options. We are excited to have Dr. Hollie Matthews on our show today. She has an incredible story, and we heard it a couple of weeks ago. We went to lunch with her, and we're excited to share it with you. So, Dr. Matthews, welcome to our show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. So, you're welcome. So, tell us your story I love listening to your story from childhood and to how you became a doctor. So let's start there.
Well, I mean, really, I think if you listen to my oldest sister, who's 6 years older than me, I started talking about becoming a doctor when I was about 3 years old. So I was very straight path minded from early childhood to become a doctor. I think part of that is probably because I was the sick kid. You know, I was the first kid sick and the last kid well. I mean, I thought it was normal every year of grade school that everybody had pneumonia every single year, until I got to med school and found out like I should not have had pneumonia at all. And, so all these different things in my childhood, I think part of what kept me on that track for going to become a physician was partly just to figure out why I was the sickly child. I mean, my mother literally called me her sickly child. They stopped doing a lot of the things that they did for hobbies because they couldn't take me. They were worried I would die out on a trail somewhere. They were long distance backpackers, hikers, like out on the Cascade Trail and everything. So that's where they went on their honeymoon, in fact, was part of the Pacific Crest Trail over the Goat Rocks. That was their idea of a honeymoon. So I mean, they were like, we can't take this kid out in the middle of nowhere. She's going to die. So a lot of that stopped when I rolled around because they were just so fearful. And I was an asthmatic kid and I couldn't run from here to there. And I was always sick. Like, I just remember always being the sick kid. And I think, the initial, my parents, people would always ask me, what are you going to be when you're going to grow up? And I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. And my parents are like, we don't know where she's coming from. Like, my mom worked at Safeway. My dad worked in a lumber mill as a cat operator. I mean, we're blue collar people. We're worker bees. And they're like, yeah, we don't know where this kid is coming from. My dad's like, and we have no clue how to pay for it. Like, you want to go to college, you figure out how to pay for it. So that was my trajectory. He was very honest about that. He was not going into debt for me to go to school. So it was all on me. And I knew that from a very young age. Like, if I wanted to go to college, if I wanted to become a doctor, I had to figure out how to make that happen. So that really influenced my choices growing up. Like, I was, fortunately for me, we moved from Longview to Winlock when I was about 10, and being 30 miles away from pulp mills and cedar trees and everything I was allergic to, I literally grew 8 inches in 5th grade. And my mom thought, oh, that's her growth spurt. She's just still going to be a short kid. And then I did it again in 8th grade. So that was like the makeup growth. So fortunately for me, I'd probably be like 5 foot if we hadn't moved when I was 10. So it was sort of a happy accident. And all through high school, my friends are out partying and I got to get good grades because if I want to go to college, I got to get a scholarship. And so that really influenced me. And then fortunately, I did get a scholarship. I was on an academic scholarship to St. Martin's, at the time was college, now university. And so then I was able to go to college for 4 years and keep my scholarship. And I had to keep a 3.8 or above to keep my scholarship. So it was really intense college years. And then but at the same time, I wanted to go to med school, so I had to do that anyway. So, I think if you put your mind to something and you sort of single-mindedly pursue it, it will happen, like regardless of your roots. And, you know, my parents were happy I did what I did, although I always say that if I ever wrote a book, the title would be Forever a Disappointment, because my dad wanted me to be a vet and my mom wanted me to be a naturopath. And I went into allopathic medicine to the shame of everyone, you know. But
Wow.
that was my choice, so I did.
So where'd you end up going to med school?
I went to the University of Washington, which is actually the only school I really wanted to go to. I'm born and raised in Washington. I knew I probably would end up in primary care, and that's the best school in the nation for primary care. So why wouldn't I want to go to my in-state school? Plus, again, I'm footing the bill, so I understand the numbers, and it's much nicer to pay in-state tuition for your graduate school than out-of-state tuition. So, yeah. I mean, best school in the nation, it's right here at my home.
Right.
So once you graduated.
Sorry, say again.
Once you graduated, share with us your journey as a doctor.
So once I graduated, I actually started in general surgery. So I did a year general surgery internship in Akron, Ohio. And I rapidly decided that although I love to operate and I'm good at it, I like to sleep at night and surgeons don't. And I rapidly figured out that although I could do the work, I didn't want to be responsible for it. Like, trauma surgeons do amazing things. I learned a ton being in a level 1 trauma center for an entire year. But it wasn't my reason for going to medical school. And when I went back and really looked at the pros and cons of general surgery for a lifetime versus why did I go to medical school, I went to medical school to help other people like me, rural people, people who needed help navigating medicine and this convoluted, distorted system that we have created, and to help them take some of the angst off of the realities of when you have to go to a large tertiary care center. Like, that's my forte. That's where I can really shine. And so, you know, about 3 months in, we took a lady back. We were looking for a bleeder, and we just couldn't keep her blood pressure up. And we're doing exploratory laparotomy. It's 2:00 in the morning. I'm holding retractors for the chief of surgery. So this is the head honcho. You know, he was a really, really nice guy. But he kept saying, I think we got it. Do you think we got it? And I'm thinking, dude, you're asking an intern of 3 months. Like, I don't even know what we're looking at. I think it's momentum. Like, I was just like, and it just like dawned on me, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, I never want to be in his position. I never want to be the one responsible for looking for a needle in a haystack at 2:00 in the morning, and I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm like trying to decide, did we get it? Did we not get it? I mean, fortunately we got it, but I have no idea, like, whether, you know, I don't know. Lady lived, so we must have done something right. But I mean, oh my gosh, like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, I don't want to be responsible for this. I don't like having this much call. I can do the work, but I can't do this forever. And I needed more sleep. So I went back, I went back and read my application to medical school, like my personal statement that I wrote. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I need to be a primary care doctor. Like, that's why I went to medical school. That's still really where I think I'm going to shine. I think that's what I need to do. So I went back, read that personal statement, and wrote a pro and con list. And the only reason I could think to stay in Ohio was I liked our house. And my husband at the time was like, I think we can find another house we like. Like, you know, like I didn't like being on East Coast time. There were a lot of reasons. I didn't like the weather, and Ohio's not for me. All my family's on West Coast time. So it was really difficult, really challenging to touch base. And so we moved back to Washington, and I went to Tacoma Tacoma Family Medicine to do my family medicine residency. And they're part of the University of Washington network of residencies as well. So you get a lot of resources from the University of Washington as well, but you don't have to live in Seattle. So I then spent 3 years in Tacoma and then graduated from my residency.
And then what?
And then I practiced for 20 years in family medicine. And when I finished my residency, I said, "How about Eastern Washington?" And my husband said, "How about Moses Lake?" And I said, "How about Eastern Washington?" I was thinking somewhere smaller. He was thinking, he's from Kirkland, so he was like, Moses Lake is plenty small. His nightmare being a business guy is have somebody at the grocery store like, "Can you just look at this and tell your wife about it, and flash him their bum or something, like he does not want to see your body parts." So that unfortunately has happened even in Moses Lake, but poor guy, he's been through a lot. So we moved to Moses Lake actually, and that turned out to be a really good thing. And I practiced here, various facilities. And then my last practice was in Ephrata, and I really loved working in Ephrata. And then I had a ladder fall out from underneath me when I was painting the trim on my garage, and that had never happened before. And I fell. Fortunately for me, I truly believe God saved me, because right before the ladder fell, it gave a little bit and I tensed way up and I thought, "Oh God, I'm going to fall." And I kid you not, clear as a bell in my head, I hear, "Go limp." Just like that, a voice, "Go limp." And so I did as instructed. And then the ladder fell out from underneath me and I landed in the rocks of my flower bed, and both of my feet hit the ground at the same time, and the rocks rolled underneath me like I was in a stream bed. And then I landed on my rear end, and then I landed right on my butt. And so I had an inch of hair padding, so I did not crack my skull. In fact, I didn't break anything because I was limp as instructed. Go limp. That was great advice. But my brain went forward and backwards in my skull. And so I suffered what they call a coup contra coup concussion. And it took me a while to really admit how injured I was. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was driving to work and getting nauseous, so I would take a nausea pill when I got to work, but it never happened before. And they were redoing the roof. And so I just thought it was the noise from the roofers, but the lights were bright. It felt like bodies. It sounded like bodies were going to fall through the roof. There was all kinds of signs to me that I was suffering from a concussion, but it took me a while to really admit, oh my gosh, I am really injured. I was having trouble with, I would be working along and I couldn't see anymore. And I couldn't read off of a screen. And, my job entails me documenting everything on screen all day, every day for every patient. Everything comes in electronically. So all my x-rays, all my lab results, all messages from my partners, all my messages from my patients, everything's electronic and I can't see. This is a problem, and it's happening every single day. And every single day I'd have a migraine by 2 p.m. and I'd just have to go home. And really inconvenient when you're trying to see patients. And the migraine would just lay me out. I would be down for 3 to 5 days. And I was having instances where I would go to sit down, to use a toilet or something like that. And the earth would on its axis and I would be in bed the rest of the day because I just had such bad vertigo. And all these different, with all my education, everything I know about concussions, it just took me a while to really put it together, what was happening to me. And the fact that being on a screen all day, every day it was causing me a lot of symptoms. And I was trying to just do what I had always done, which is just power through, just keep going, just keep working. and just keep doing all the and I finally had to admit, like, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm my body is like telling me, screaming at me, like, you know, this isn't right. You can't keep doing this. And I finally just, I hit a wall, and I had to, in October, I had to just say, like, I can't practice the way I want to practice. I can't keep up the work. I don't want to let my patients down. I really don't want to have something happen because I can't read it off a screen. And I took a leave of absence.
So you've had some journeys of being a patient that you shared with us that I think, unless you've been a patient, I don't know if healthcare professionals really understand the struggle that is on the other side. And you shared that with Shawn and I, and it was very impactful. And not the first time we've heard things like this, but just kind of touch over some of the things you experienced as being the patient rather than the doctor.
Yeah, over the years, I have been a patient a lot. And so I feel like I'm fairly good at advocating for myself, but with a traumatic brain injury, that navigating medicine, and I mean, this is what I do every day. It's what I've done for the last 24, 25 years, is navigate healthcare with patients and help direct them. And when I was trying to get my care, I ran into a lot of barriers. Like I would have a referral placed, and I would call after a few weeks and be like, where's my referral? And they'd be like, oh, canceled. Like, why was it canceled? Like, and then I would have another one I would call about, like, where's my referral? And they're like, oh, we don't have it. And I'm like, well, I'm sure you have it, because I talked to the referrals coordinator and she sent it and she resent it. And then, oh, well, actually, we moved our office and we can't access that box in the electronic medical record. And so then you just kind of like wondering, like, well, what's the truth? Can you not access it? Do you not actually have it? Do you not know where to look for it? Like, it just, a lot of the smoke and mirrors and the gaslighting that was happening to me. And I was just like so frustrated. Like, here I am, you know, I've been a doctor for 25 years and I can't get the appointments I need, that I know I need. And I literally had somebody tell me, you know, works in a call center, that they would have someone review my chart and decide if my referral was appropriate or not. And I was like, I try not to name drop, but I was like, look, I am a physician. I'm in primary care. I know what an appropriate referral is. And they were like, well, someone else has to determine that. Like, I have MD after my name. I went to the University of Washington and I can't get an appointment there. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I wrote a pretty scathing email to UW. Like, I was ashamed. Like, this is how you treat patients. This is how you treat former graduates. This is how you treat physicians. This is how you treat people, is somebody without a medical degree, or maybe not, I don't know, is going to review my referral and decide whether or not I deserve an appointment. Like, what is that? And in fact, that referral was closed. And they sent me a form letter 3 months afterwards that said, we have reviewed your chart and deemed that you have received adequate treatment. The only treatment I received was a referral to them. And I was appalled. What is wrong with medicine? That people who even know how to navigate the system cannot get to the physicians who do want to help them. Having been on both sides, like, I know doctors want to help people, but there are so many barriers to getting the patients into your clinic. Like, it's terrible. And it's like, why is this so complicated? Why is somebody with minimal training determining whether or not I have the right to see a specialist? Like, I'm confused. And all of this just I finally just decided that I don't want to play the game anymore. I'm tired of apologizing for a messed up system. Like, medicine is really screwed up. I don't think patients understand how messed up the system is. And I have a friend who's an RN who has 3 children, all with special needs, and she has to advocate for them. And she is very excellent at advocating for her children. She will not let her kids down. And I would be overwhelmed with one kid with special needs, and she's got 3 of them. And she advocates and advocates and advocates. And she has been accused of Munchausen syndrome. She has been, there's certain places where she doesn't even want to go back to. She now has severe anxiety having to go in and meet any new specialist because of the accusations that have been lodged in her children's charts against her when she is advocating for her kids. And she's a great mom. She does a great job. Those kids are very high functioning because she doesn't let it go. But medicine has branded her a problem because she advocates. And that's wrong. And I see that again and again. Either you see people who say, you know, in my case, like, well, I give up. I'll just go do the best I can with what I've got to work with. Or you see the other side of it where it's like, well, I just never give up. And then you get branded like my friend, you know, for being a problem parent. That's not a problem parent. That is a strong advocate for 3 high needs kids who are doing really great because their mom did not accept mediocre from their medical teams. And that's what's happened is there's, I don't know, in my mind, when I look at medicine today, there's too much hot potato. There's too much see this other specialist and see what they think. So you see this specialist and that specialist and the other specialist, you go back to your primary care, you're totally confused. You have no idea how to put it all together. Everybody's got warring ideas. Nobody's taught one another. You know, medicine used to be a team sport. We used to have, you know, care conferences. We used to have dialogues with specialists. We try to figure out a plan together. We weren't throwing everybody under the bus. And, you know, over the years, I've seen it just get worse and worse where our colleagues were no longer backing each other up. And the reason I think that there is so much distrust in medicine is because you always get a different story and everybody's throwing each other under the bus. And it's like, no, we need to advocate together for the welfare of these patients. We need to collaborate more. And that takes time, you know, time that no one has because there are not enough of us and there are too many patients. But then, you know, how do we fix such a broken system? I don't know. I don't have the answer to it. But I do know for me, I'm tired of apologizing for it. I feel like I can give patients a lot of answers without having to go see a specialist. And at this point, I've opened my own practice so that if they want to come and see me, I don't take insurance because I think insurance just complicates things too. I mean, they're dictating who you can see. They're dictating, you know, and they also dictate whether people believe it or not. They dictate your care. They are impacting your care. So, you know, I don't mind people having jobs, but medicine has gotten too complex. You have to hire all these people in order to get paid for the work you've already done. You have to hire all these people to coordinate all your referrals because they are dropped or closed or whatever by somebody for some reason. Or lost in the electronic medical record. No one's talking to anybody else. And so at this point in my career, I'm kind of calling this my retirement practice, is I'm doing very one-on-one care. So like if I need to send somebody to a specialist, I'm going to call that specialist and be like, this is what I have. You know, over the years, when I've called specialists, I call them when I need them and I try to tee everything up for them. So it's all there on a silver platter, slam dunk the diagnosis. We all agree, we go. And over the years, I don't call call but when I have called a specialist, what I find interesting is some of my colleagues say, well, I call them and I never get a call back. And I'm like, that's funny, because when I call, I always get them on the phone, but I don't call very often. But when I do send somebody, they all know I'm going to have done everything I possibly can for that workup that I know to do before I send that patient, so that they have all of the information they need so we can save that patient multiple trips back. There is nothing worse than going to a specialist and they say, you need come back when it's all done. And you've driven 3 hours to go see them. So you've had 6 hours of driving, a day off of work. You had to get the appointment. You had to suffer through the call center, all the things. And then you get there and they're like, I don't have all the information I need. I need all these other things. That's very frustrating from a patient standpoint. So as a primary care provider, I feel like it's my job to try to do as much as possible. Now, sometimes I can't get those things approved because of your insurance. That doesn't mean I don't think they need to be done. That doesn't mean the specialist doesn't think they need to be done. That's the insurance company saying, we'll approve it. Or we're not going to approve it until the specialist orders it. So they're delaying your care. They're the ones dictating when things are done and when they're not done. And it's very frustrating. And I've spent a lot of time on the phone over the years calling insurance companies. And honestly, I have yet to call one where they just will not cover it. If I speak to somebody, there's one medication that they just couldn't cover, and it was for weight loss. But everything else I've called for, I've talked to physician reviewers, and they've been like, oh, yeah, okay, I see what the problem is. Yeah, you need that scan you ordered, plus you need these $1,000 tests with it. I would recommend this, that, and the other thing too. And so, I mean, I've actually had the physician reviewer from the insurance company add extra tests that I didn't think of. So again, the collaboration in medicine is really lacking. It used to happen a lot more. And I think that collaboration, it's leading to burnout. It's leading to everybody feeling like it's my job to fix everyone. And I'm all here working in this silo by myself, and I don't have any help, when that's not the case. But we don't have enough time, enough hours in the day to collaborate about these things. And medicine's really a team sport. There's no way that one person can know everything. I would say in primary care, you have to know 80% of 80%. It's a lot. You need to know a lot of things, and staying up to date with that is the challenge of primary care. I think the other thing is there's a lot of delayed gratification. So, I have 12 years of education after high school. Like, people looking at that like, why would you do that? You can just go in and program computer and, you work right away, maybe 4 years of college. And so I think, as far as attracting new talent, it's a long road to become a physician, and some specialties are even longer. And so then, that sort of deters some people from wanting to go into medicine. And so then the problem is becoming worse because we have less people going into medicine. We have, they did increase the medical schools, but they did not increase the number of residency spots. So now we still have that the narrowing, the bridge effect of you don't have enough residency spots in the U.S. to fulfill the need of the doctors that we need to train. And in the U.S., if you don't do a U.S. residency, it's really hard to get a job. I mean, you have to have a U.S. residency for the most part. There are a few out there, but most of those people have been grandfathered in over the years. Anymore, it's almost impossible to get a job if you don't have a residency and if you're not board certified. So there's a lot of problems with medicine. I mean, I could talk probably an hour on just the whole residency process and the problems there, the lack of primary care, the lack of people wanting to go into it, the delayed gratification, the mountain of debt that you come out of medical school with. And I would say I'm really lucky. Like, when I talk to colleagues, like, when they and their husband both have undergrad and, medical school and law school all to pay for, the mountain of debt that they are under when they start their lives, it's astronomical. Like I don't even think I'd be able to breathe. Like, I mean, I thought mine was terrible, and I know now, that I was pretty lucky that I was able to go to college on a scholarship. I graduated from undergrad debt free, and then I just had my med school debt, which I'm still paying off. It's been 25 years. So
what a story, Hollie. That's awesome.
It's a lot.
It is. And you are a wonderful doctor. You're a wonderful advocate for your patients, and a wonderful person. So tell us more about your clinic's name and how people get a hold of you.
So Eudaimonia Medical Spa, we're here in Moses Lake on 3rd and Alder. There's a little hallway down behind Sage Academy and Massage. I didn't even know the hallway was there after 16 years in Moses Lake, until I rented the space. And so all the way at the end of the hallway, that's where you'll find us. There's a lot of signs. And people can just call or text me, 509-793-5046. And I figure that, hopefully patients won't abuse me, because I'm taking down all the barriers between them. Like, come see me, we'll work something out. How can I, and that's why I went to medical school. How can I help? How can I help you get better? This is why people go to the doctor. You go to the doctor to feel better, not to feel worse, not to have more stress, not to know what to, like, what do I hate it when you leave a doctor's appointment and go, I don't know what to do. Like, if I'm feeling that way, like, clearly patients are confused. So we need to take more time. We need to educate more physicians. We need to collaborate with one another, with our pharmacists, with our whole team, all the people. We need physical therapists. We need speech therapists. I mean, we need so many people to make people better. But this is, we need all of the quote unquote alternative medicines. I think they all have their place. Now, there are things they can do that I can't do, and vice versa. And I think if we could collaborate, if we could create wellness centers with all these different modalities, with acupuncture and acupressure and chiropractic and massage and primary care and all the things, and have a pharmacy there and have everybody collaborating on these patients, I think we could actually get people feeling better instead of feeling sick. And that, I think, is really the reason you go to the doctor, is to feel better.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You've helped us realize our goal, Dr. Matthews, which is to educate and empower individuals to take charge of their own health. So thank you for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in to Health
Stay
Solutions.
off ladders.
Yeah. Yes. And thank you for tuning in to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Tune in Monday, our regularly scheduled podcast, 12:30 to 1:30 Pacific Standard Time. Thank you.